Hi, my name is Alek. I am doctor from Russia who successfully became a doctor in Australia. Today I want to share my story and explain how I achieved it. I graduated from a Russian medical university and worked in a state hospital for 6 years, specializing as an obstetrician and gynecologist. By the end of my internship, I had already decided that one day I would move abroad and work as a doctor. When considering where to go, I weighted the options among English speaking countries like USA, Australia, the UK, Canada, and New Zealand, as well as Spain. I also looked into professional immigration to places like Qatar and United Arab Emirates. In the end, I choose Australia because I believed that among developed countries, the path to becoming a practicing doctor where was more accommodating for international medical graduates with relatively manageable exams compared to other countries. My journey began with intensive English courses to prepare for the IELTS academic test. At the time, to register as a doctor in Australia, you needed a minimum score 7.0 in each section. My English was at an upper intermediate level, but after a 4 weeks course in England, I wasn't able to reach the required scores. I only managed to score 5.5 on my first attempt. Still, the course gave me a strong foundation, valuable exam experience, and a clear preparation strategy moving forward. At first, I focused solely on passing the IELTS, which turned out to be my first mistake, but more on that later. After failing my first attempt, I continued preparing back in Russia with online courses. 6 months later, I tried again in Moscow. This time, my score improved to 6.0, but it was still insufficient for registration. This heated I started losing motivation and even considered switching my goal to passing the USMLE, the exam required to practice in the United States. I spent a year exploring that path and researching others' experiences. However, I realized that preparing for the USMLE required quitting my job and dedicating myself full time to studying, which wasn't feasible for me with a family and a young child. So I returned to my original plan of becoming a doctor in Australia. I committed to studying IELTS with renewed determination. This time, I devoted almost all my free time to English, completely changing my habits and lifestyle. After several months, I achieved my first score of 7.0 in the speaking section, but writing remained the most challenging part. Encouraged by my progress, I prepared even more intensively, taking on a lighter workload by switching to shift as a night doctor, which gave me an extra day off each week. After another few months of preparation, despite the added challenge of having a second child, I finally passed the IELTS on my first attempt with an overall score of 7.5. While preparing for IELTS, I also researched the progress of becoming a doctor in Australia. At the time, there wasn't Much information available online, but I found a forum where a Russian speaking doctor had shared his detailed journey. Though he later removed his post, I discovered a Facebook group for Russian speaking doctors in Australia. This group became a turning point for me as it provided first hand, step by step guidance, and free of charge, by the way. It was in this group where I learned about my initial mistake, taking the IELTS first. The test certificate has a 2-year validity period, meaning I would need to retake it if I didn't complete the remaining steps in time. This left me with only 2 years to pass the other exams, find a job, and relocate to Australia, all while working full time as an obstetrician and gynecologist in a busy tertiary hospital. The next major challenge was the AMC MCQ exam, Australian Medical Council, and the multiple choice question exam. Thanks to the Facebook group, I joined an online study group with doctors from various countries, meeting via Skype 3 times a week. Together, we solved practice questions and reviewed complex topics. I set a goal to prepare for this exam within 6 months. However, after taking a practice test, I realized I needed more time. 9 months after starting my preparation, I passed the exam with a sufficient score, making a significant milestone. The next step was IMC clinical exam, a more challenging exam that could only be taken in Melbourne at that time. Passing rates were low. Only again, the Facebook group came to my rescue. A fellow doctor advised me to look for job opportunities that didn't require IMC clinical immediately, focusing on positions with urgent need and less competition. He also helped me create a resume and a cover letter and guided me on where to look for job positions. Over 6 months, I submitted more than 200 applications. Initially, I received rejection after rejection, but I didn't lose hope. Finally, I received my first invitation for a phone interview. Despite not getting the job, it gave me valuable experience and boosted my confidence. Over the next 2 months, I completed 6 more interviews, becoming more comfortable with each one. Eventually, I received a job offer from the second interview. The process of obtaining a limited registration and visa took several more months, but I made it just in time, arriving in Australia shortly before the onset of COVID-19 pandemic. That's how my journey to becoming a doctor in Australia unfolded. Since then, I've worked in both metropolitan and regional hospitals, faced more exams, and eventually obtained Australian citizenship. But those are stories for another time. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to hear about in future videos. Thank you. Bye bye.